Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media and What's Up Kansas City. And today we have another one of our council persons on the show. Who do we have here?
Mr. Nelson, I'm Lee Barnes, council person, 5th District at Large.
All right. Hey, Lee, you know, I've been knowing you for a real long time from when we used to work out at the center, Craig Center.
Yeah, exactly.
And really didn't know a whole lot about you except for you was muscle bound. That's all I knew. You and the tall gentleman that you used to train with every morning.
Right, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I said that to say, I want you to go way back to high school or middle school and in quick succession, tell our audience a little bit about who Lee Barnes is, how you arrived into politics. Because, you know, I know you from working with Upper Room and some other things. And right. I think it's very important for our community to know who's representing them, where they came from. And what I'm trying to use our platform more so, as I've told the majority community, I talk white and black. Most people can't, but I own this. I can talk any kind of way I want. I'm using this platform to reach out to my white brethren and the white community in general, because they have the power, let's face it, to try to change what our current situation is in the world, especially here in Kansas City, that we have to try to find a way to talk to each other and understand that all of us are humans. So right. The human part of your story, let it begin.
Well, it goes back 56 years, I guess. But I'm born and raised here in Kansas City. I went to Kansas City Public Schools, graduated from Central High School in 1982. From there, I went to Kansas State University on an engineering scholarship, and I graduated in engineering within 4 years, which is not the norm. Most people take 4.5, 5 years to graduate in engineering programs.
Why did it take me 5 years to get a physical education degree?
I have no idea, brother.
Yeah. So I know what you're talking about. You had to be really grinding.
Yeah, well, you know, it was about being focused, and that's kind of a part of how I grew up.
One other thing, I'm cutting you off again. People say I cut people off. I forgot to ask you to name some of the mentors that really encouraged you in your life and helped you see the light, per se.
Well, you know, and I have a kind of array of folks who I consider mentors. Starting with my baseball coaches. I played baseball intensely from the time I was 7 years old until I went to...
Name them coaches' names so that they know and other people know how much you appreciate them, if you can remember their full names.
Oh yeah, I remember their full names. Unfortunately, most of them have passed away, but...
That's all right, giving them their props.
Walter Young was one of them. Kenny Robinson, he was one of my coaches back in...
What did they lend? I'm keeping it. What did they lend to you that you want to just stamp? I learned this from this coach. I learned that not just on the baseball field, being a man or what have you. Run that down.
Right.
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.
Well, let me name that final baseball coach was Charles Beeman. And each of these guys had sons that were playing baseball. Most of them, they were like a year or two older than I was, but they continued to coach the teams that we had from the time I was 7 years old up until I was 17. And you talk about what did they instill? I talked about being focused in terms of being able to graduate from engineering school within 4 years. One of the things they instilled in all of the guys that I played with was to be focused, was to be conscious of what you're supposed to be doing, know your role as a teammate. A lot of times that's more applicable in football, but in baseball it's the same thing. Knowing where you're supposed to be when a ball is pitched and going and is hit out in one field, how do you cover one base and who's to cover that base and those kind of things. But but being focused and being really being diligent about your work ethic. That was another thing they taught. We would practice during the summer pretty much every day. And there was a group of about 6 or 7 guys that grew up with me, played ball with me every summer. To this day, we're still good friends. So those are some of the things they taught all of us, in which we still to this day understand that that's how we became some of the men that we are. And so that was the biggest piece of that.
All right. Who was a mentor to you? Was there any being wanting to be an engineer? That's not something that you just all of a sudden, oh, I want to go to the moon.
No.
Who inspired you to want to get in that profession? And also, how did that go? What was that like, you going through that university? I've learned PDI, predominantly white institution. But I'm saying, when I'm interviewing HBCU coaches and stuff, and then they'll go, I'm like, what? And so yeah. I usually, when I use an acronym, I usually try to say what it is for my laymen that are watching the program. What was that like, going to a predominantly white institution, being Black, and in the engineering curriculum?
Well, I'll start with back at Central High School. At the time I was coming through, I graduated in 1982. There were guys who graduated, a year or 2 or 3 years before I did, who were kind of instrumental in us and some of the rest of us looking at those fields of study. And at that time, engineering was a growing field, and we had one of the best math teachers that the city had. His name was Mr. Griffin. I can't remember what his first name was.
He was at Central?
Yes, Mr. Griffin. And I'll guarantee you that if you came out of we called him Griff. If you came out of Griff's class, his pre-calculus classes, his algebra classes, you were prepared to do anything within the math realm.
That's what I need right now, man. My youngest that's graduating, she took her to lunch yesterday. She's like, I need help with my calculus. And I had called my mentor, Leon Dixon, but Leon said that he had some things on his mind, but after this, you might be able to give me somebody that I might can have look at her. She's graduating in December. Yeah. So go on, Lee.
So with that, having that kind of a person who can set the foundation for you, and math was the foundation for me and the rest of my college studies, because if you're particularly going into a technical field as engineering, if you've got that basis, it helps you with all of the rest of the things you have to do with your chemistry, your physics, with your differential equations.
The world is based on math. The computer system, math.
Exactly.
But a lot of us, as part of the diaspora, don't get that.
Yeah.
What the basis things that you need to know in life that come together. Go ahead.
And one of the things I found out was those of us who were real adept in math, we could use that in all the other fields, such as writing, because if you're putting together sentence structures, you may not have the best words, but you do know how to construct the sentence so that it flows, so that it is one that people will understand. So even in that realm, we understand where we are as we move forward with.
So did you further your education after K-State?
Did I do what now?
Further your education.
Yeah, I've completed some courses for an MBA. I never finished it because at that point I started buying real estate and started buying and selling real estate. And then 4 years after I graduated and worked at Hallmark Cards, I bought my first company. So for 15 years, it was an industrial steam cleaning company. And so for 15 years following that, I bought and sold small companies into larger companies.
I had no idea you. Hey, man, you shifty, bro. I had no. You and that Ajamu Webster, they better watch out when it comes to these economics and strategy and planning and, for lack of a better word, stick-to-itness.
Yeah, in engineering, you have to have some of that. I mean, because very seldom are there going to be, undoubtedly in some classes, you're going to come up against some things that you're not going to understand right away. And so you have to have some stick-to-itiveness to be able to muster your way through those particular courses.
So how'd you get into politics, Lee?
It was kind of an offshoot of community service that I was doing. You probably know that I'm a member of the National Black United Front.
Right.
And within the Black United Front, we had mentoring programs that we called Simba Nafalami, which was and the male portion of that was called Simba, which means young lion. And for every Saturday for 10 years straight, myself, Ajamu Webster, Mickey Dean, and several of us, Latrone Slade, we would meet with
let's put our boy Alvin Sykes in the mix.
Yeah, Alvin was a part of the initial structures of the programming there. We would meet with Buffalo, John Buffalo Solomon. I don't know if you know Buffalo.
Yeah, please don't leave Buffalo out.
Right.
Wall Street, baby.
Exactly, and Buffalo was the reason we were able to use the Wayne Minor Recreation Center, because Buffalo was the building manager and he ran the Wayne Minor Center. So we were able to use the center on every Saturday through Buffalo. So Buffalo was a part of that. He was a member of the National Black United Front. So that's kind of how I got involved with.
Let's get down to where the rubber meets the road now. I done did all the softy, cottony stuff. Let's talk this Kansas City politics now. Let's talk about what's your feeling on the police situation as it relates to the police and all the hoorah about the chief and defunding the police. What's your position on that?
Well, I'll give you my position on whether we should have local control. I've said since I've sat here as a council person is that I think we should have local control, because I somewhat feel as a councilman we're somewhat abdicating our responsibility with not having local control. Now that's not something that we can necessarily control. That's something that the state has to, that the entire state has to vote on. But I think for us to be more accountable to the citizens, we should have local control. And that's not to say that we want to bring politics into it. And that's the piece that frustrates me, is that those of us some folks who say that with having local control, that means you bring politics into the situation. Well, if the governor's in control of it now, he's not a politician. So
it's all political.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's why I be talking so tough on my program, because everything becomes political and economic based, and one has to watch what they say and what they do if they want to be able to pay their bills.
Yeah.
And
so let me say this. With local control, I think off the top, we would be able to, we meaning the city, would be able to integrate some of the functions that happen between the two organizations. Because right now what we have are two different organizations. We have the City of Kansas City and we have the Kansas City Police Department, which functions as its own entity. Now we
Rick, guy was the head of the Crime Commission on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was on last week talking talking because I don't know whether you know, my brother-in-law Leon Harden was on the crime commission, and my godfather Carl DeCappa was on the crime commission, and I think they're doing a good job. But I think the police really need to be reformed, and I don't see the state doing that.
Most likely not. No. And I'm not saying that if the police were under the control of the city, that everything right away is going to be hunky dory. But what we do have is more community input. We'll be able to have those of us who are council people will have to, we're more accountable to the citizens than say an appointed board is.
Right. Let's keep it moving.
That's just by nature of, our positions.
Next thing, let's go to the school. How do you see the Kansas City School District, and are you pleased with what's happening as it relates to the urban core educational facilities that are available for our kids?
Well, I mean, I have a little history with Kansas City, Missouri School District. I was on the school board back in 1998 to 2002, and I was on the school board at the time when we were under the federal government.
Under Benson.
Yeah, well, Benson was the attorney for the plaintiff children, but the judge at the time was Judge Whipple.
Right.
And right as I was getting off was when we were coming off of being under federal control. And so I have a little history with that. And I understand that at that point in time, the levy that was imposed upon the citizens was one of the highest levies, was the highest levy in the state. So funding was not a problem. So funding wasn't a problem when they wanted to do this desegregation piece and put together all these programs for children to come back into the district.
That was a big fuss as far as I was concerned. And like I said, I say it like this, that made Jay Dunn, he wound up, the new word in the construction lexicon was just coming in, project management. That's what a damn general contractor does in general. So now you project managing major world-class contractors, and you getting the cream off the top. At that time, I had construction company, and I renovated Miltmore, C.A. Franklin, Longin, Sugar Creek, and Fairmont. But they only gave me one room out of each one of those schools when millions of dollars were being spent with the majority community. And so that's why I said we can ready to start talking about where the rubber meets the road as it relates to how we vote and who's representing us. And Cascade Media Group now, we get ready to start taking roll call on how our council people are voting and how these other people are voting, and putting some type of chart together so that our laymen, our mothers that can't read or write, can look at an interview and say, oh, this is what's going on, because we have got to get into this financial matrix where our tax dollars are being spent and our business people.
Yeah. So leading into that, I think most people know where I was on the developer for the airport.
Oh yeah, and let's talk about that. I was going there.
So just recently, as a month ago, there was an opportunity for a Black company to win a $15 million contract, and he was the low bidder on the contract. But the committee decided that he didn't have enough experience. But this company has been doing this kind of work for the city for 15 years. It's been
yeah, but let me say this, Lee. I keep interrupting you. About 5 interviews this week I've done, and I talked about this because I bring the airport up on a lot of things. Since I was in construction, the rules are the low bid's supposed to win, but then in the small print it says the low bid might not be the best bid, and so therefore, why do you bid? I win it, and then you say, but that's not the best bid. I was in construction, and that's how they did me, and I'm just straight out. I was doing Sugar Creek. Dunn had his superintendent there. They had read the plans upside down. My guy tried to my superintendent said, Mr. Nelson, those plans are upside down. If we put this in like that, the racism is so rampant. The superintendent talked to me like I was just put it in the way the plan. All right, I put it in the way the plans was. You have a meeting at the general contractor spot every 2 weeks, and the main contractor, Phil Curls and Willan Eubanks, were partnering with Dunn at that time, the minority partner. They got me in there and they ripped me up. They said all of this, that I put it in wrong and this and that. They didn't know the black man kept a daily log. And so after they ripped me, I pulled out that daily log. I said, on this date, this is what the weather was, this was who was on the job, and this was the conversation. And when I started talking about that conversation, the first thing, all them people in the room, oh, this was a partnership. No, no, it was a lynching a few minutes ago.
Until you had some receipts, huh?
Yeah, so I am adamant on this airport, how the Kansas City Council has handled our tax dollars, and they have let these people, they worse than these damn carpetbaggers. They come in town, get these big deals, and then there's no teeth in the contract to make them do the right thing by small businesses.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's one of the things that I try to make sure that we
But how do you see that working? And the other thing, how do you see your opposites? You're at large. How do you see the whole council really understanding the importance of supporting minorities in this city if this city is going to be a strong and healthy city?
Well, I see we give a lot of lip service to it, but I'm one of those people that says, where does the rubber meet the road, as you said. Listen, when we have the opportunity, and we had an opportunity where like I said, guy had opportunity to
and he
win.
had 10 black subs, from my understanding, that would have benefited.
Yeah.
And see, I people don't like when I start doing this, but I go back to them damn stadiums. Those stadiums should have made at least 10 black millionaires.
Yeah,
and they didn't. And we had black people at the helm that were supposed to be monitoring that participation, and there was things that had teeth in it that could have blocked all of that, and it wasn't done for different reasons I'm not going to go into, but it's a new day now, and I think, especially with Cascade Media Group, I'm making sure that I get in touch with all you council people and them people over at the county that act like they don't want to get on camera. You representing us. We need to know what your views are, and we need to know what's going on the council so that our laymen and our general public can back you more so than anything. They can't back you if they don't really understand what's going on. You're speaking over their head. And so,
well, and one of the things that some of the research you might want to do is go back. I had a Facebook post the day after that particular meeting, in which I addressed the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, talking about why we should have been more forthcoming in giving, and not giving the contractor.
Why?
No, he won it.
That's what I'm saying. But they qualify when they try to use that. When I went out of business, I had the contractor put the elevator in the tower out at KCI. That was like 20 years ago. The only people that had outside elevators was Jay Dunn, because to do that, you had to have an elevator on the outside of whatever you're doing.
An elevator bank on the outside.
There was only 2 companies in this area that had those. And let me tell you, it was a $360,000 contract to put that in. I went out of business. I had put the bond up. I had $1 million bond and never had more than a $20,000 line of credit. That's how bad Kansas City is. And I've done all kinds of work.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that going back 3.5, 4 years ago, when we were first talking about this airport, one of the things that one of the developers put in their bid package was that they were going to secure bonding for the minority businesses up to a certain level, and that's there. If you're in construction, that there, you understand, is giving a hand up to those who may not be able to bond, who could do the work. But if we're talking about a general overall package in construction, well, the major developer can bond most of that thing at a much lower cost.
That's the major thing that keeps blacks out of the deal. I give my props, like I asked you to give props to your coach, to Ray Etchison. Ray Etchison, when I was coming up, he gave me my first bond. It was $50,000. I was doing something for Crown Center. He doubled it after I finished that. And every time I did a good job, he doubled my bond. And that allowed me to rise in as a general contractor. When those, what's the name, schools that I told you I renovated came up?
Yeah,
the white boys and the white contractors didn't know I had $1 million bonding. There's a bunch of bid rigging going on, as far as I'm concerned, in Kansas City. And when I did the job, I bid the job. You know, after I won the job, that Dunn had they people call. My banker was John Wood at that time. Jackson County Bank was on Meyer. I don't have no damn secrets. And they called John that night to say, can he do the job, this and that? I put my bid bond up. If I don't do the job, the insurance company take care of it.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Well, and that was the same case in this case, where they were trying to say, well, he doesn't have, but they couldn't say he didn't have the experience because he.
But they'll try.
Oh yeah, they had 15 years of experience. He had an OSHA allegation that had not been adjudicated. So when you know working in construction, there's always allegations out there.
When the damn ramp catwalk fell downtown at the Hyatt.
At the Hyatt, right.
Yeah. Dunn escaped all that. And I'm not on Dunn's case. It's just a construction thing.
Right.
It's past the buck. And the real culprit a lot of time doesn't get punished.
Right.
And the only reason I'm talking so much and illustrated that, because that is what has happened over the last 50 years, black contractors.
It's historical. Yeah.
And what I went through, now this guy's going through. And it keeps us out of the real economic stream that it takes to have a successful business and run a successful business.
And to be able to grow your business. Because what I'm seeing now is people are comfortable with the minority businesses being subs, to where, you know, you can do a little $1 million project here, $400,000 project here, but when it's time for the major projects to be done, you're not getting those opportunities.
And let me say this, in a lot of situations, those majority contractors, they break subs. That's what they in the business of. Giving a minority contractor too much work that they know they can't do at a price, and then they get on the job, and then where the general contractor should be giving them a hand up with supplies, with financing, and all of that type stuff, they leave them out there, let them hang, they can't complete, then they fire them, and all the work that they put in could be thousands, 30, 40, 50,000. That's a loss.
Yeah.
And there's one specific roofing contractor that I know that's pretty large, and I keep trying to tell these contractors, you think you're the first one doing it? You need to listen. There's a reason why you don't have no major black contractors.
Back in the late '80s, you could name four African American general contractors. You can't name one now.
Right.
You can't name one.
I always talk about Alex. People say what they want to say about Alex Harris. But Alex Harris, when I was in construction, MoCan had 40, 50 contractors that was working every day on large jobs, Barney Alice Plaza. If there was going to be some construction done here, we was going to be involved. And let me say this. I hate to say this about the other politicians to a degree, and I'm not putting you in that category, and I'm making it perfectly clear. When we had Charles Hasley and Bobby and them, they knew how to work the damn system to get us something in our community.
Yeah.
And I don't feel, and this is a question that I ask those young people that I told you we doing the special on, do they feel that our leadership has failed us? And I think that we all have to look in the mirror at ourselves and try to readjust our moral compass. That's me, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Particularly when you become a public servant, you have to really understand: are you doing this for you, or are you doing this for the community? Because there are sacrifices that you make. One sacrifice is you're never going to make the income being a public servant that you can in the private sector.
But see, that's what I find out. A lot of minorities that have gone into law, that go into the politics and what have you, and I don't blame them. The majority community have the black diaspora in general, where if they throw a crumb of cheese out, we're so hungry.
Yeah.
Hey, Lee, I'm just being real. And that, as I tell people, you can't come on my show if you can't speak truth to power. And we don't even recognize what we're doing is detrimental to one another.
Sometimes we don't. Yeah. Right.
Because how the world has been shaped to treasure economics and material things, and not what you can even do for your family. Families are crossing each other out.
Right.
Over economics. That's not our nature. Yeah. Our nature, black people, we come from a struggle that if you're not riding the bus, I'm not riding the bus. If you're not going to Woolworths, but my generation switched it around horrible. I got my education. You don't have to. I'm taking a cab. I'm going to the Hilton to eat, and I don't care about y'all. And I think we got to get back to understanding all of us come from a certain demographic, socially and economically. And now some of us are at the front of the boat, and some of us at the middle of the boat, and some of us at the back of the boat. But if the boat sink, we all sinking together. And I think we have to reassess where we're at And give me.
And there has to be more long-term planning. It can't be the individualistic short-term visions that you have as an individual that keep you doing what you do. You have to. It has to be a kind of a corporate thought process about how the entire community moves forward. Because if not, we're going to continue to just tread this little water that we're treading in.
Together, right? Because that's
right.
what I thought. I'm saying some short-term think tanks. Where should we be going in 3 years? And how should we get there, right? And just right here in the community. It's real hard to bring us together. And what I have deduced, that comes from the majority community owning basically the airwaves, the print waves, and how we think. Even when we think we thinking right, they've put that thought in our head because they are controlling our environment. And the only way to deal with that, to me, is put us in quarantine and just like this virus, and get cleaned out and get some new information in. And you can't get that information. I'm not getting on the Call or the Globe or any of them. Wait for a damn week for some information. And we have
information is instantaneous right now, man.
Right. It's on a second basis. And that's what we do at What's Up Kansas City. But if we can't get our community to engage, and they don't engage because the majority community have them engaging with booty cutters, all this nonsense. And if I'm lying, I'm flying. And you're only a product of your environment. We're not looking at that part of the equation. Our environment is so poisonous to our mental health that we don't even understand that we're being controlled. And so when you try to give them some medicine, they refuse it.
Yeah. You're right, sir.
But you can't give up. And I won't give up. I know you won't give up. Now tell me this. What do you think about your 4 council people that look like you? Are y'all able to work together?
Well,
and not
Carlos,
just in a superficial way?
Well, I'll say this: we haven't banded together as strongly as we probably should have, but there's been no
animosity,
no dissension and consternation that I've had with any of them, and I don't think any of them have had with the other.
Tell me this: why do you think that y'all have not had a big sit down and come up with a strategy, or at least 5 or 6 things that you all can agree on and say we'll go to the wall for this?
Well, and I'm a pretty candid person. I think one of the things that happened early on is, folks had visions of what they wanted to do when they got on the council, and that's not a knock on it's not a knock on what they wanted to do, but what they wanted to do may not have included, the necessary collaboration that it really takes to get things done. So I was here and just kind of sat back and said, okay, where do we go? What are we going to do? Last term, the 4 of us, we did have quite a few more meetings together in terms of talking about, some particular strategies. And I'm always open to that.
But I'm thinking right now, as you said that, I'm trying to put it on Front Street. I'm trying to arrange a Zoom with all of our council people and let y'all talk about what the issues are that y'all see and ask the public for support. And I think that's a good gesture in moving forward with our community, seeing that we're all of one mind for the most part. You ain't one mind with your damn wife, but
right, exactly.
For the most part, they can feel.
And here's
do you think that's a good idea or what?
And here's the thing, you don't have to agree on everything. And you never will. You never will agree on everything, but there has to be some certain principles that that won't be broken as it relates to these things here we cannot be divided on. And my colleague in the 5th District and I, we try to meet on a weekly, bi-weekly basis.
Which one?
If Raina Park Shaw, she's
I
my,
like
she's
Raina.
she's
Did you
my
see
my
her
5th District
interview?
colleague. No, I
You
didn't
gotta go
see it.
look at her interview. I had her and Melissa on, and that's what I was talking about, what I'm talking about to you.
Yeah.
How do we get our block to act right? Then I had conversation with Brandon. I was like, Brandon, you the only daggone joker out here. When I say joker, because see, Brandon knows that he has built his support. His community supports him. He doesn't need political clubs to support him. He's built his own support, and so therefore he handles his politics just a little bit different. But I was saying to him, you still have to come in the fold with the other 3 so that we can get maximum pressure on things that we want to see happen. And that's what I talked to Bunch, O'Neill, and a couple of the other white council people to work with our black council people, and our community will work with you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's generally how it works. That's generally how it works.
Hold it. Do you think what I just said suggested if I was to try to do something once a month where we had all our council people on our show and we just talking about what's going on in our neighborhood, what we need to be doing, and that, I think that's an excellent idea, whether the council people, and I don't see no reason why they wouldn't want to do it, our 4 council people.
Well, I mean, once a month might be a little much because we all have our, like once a month, Raina and I have a district meeting.
Where? I'm saying, is it for the public?
Yeah, it's on Zoom, particularly now because we're not having those.
Who's Zooming it? The city?
Yeah,
that's
out of our offices.
All right, hold it. See, that's where I have.
But it's open. It's wide open to everyone.
I'm not saying that. What I am trying to say, that's where I have issues with the school district, with the Parks and Rec, and with the city. Because everybody doesn't go to those channels. And a lot of our people are not going to go to those channels unless they want to know what time the pool opens or this or that. But our channel, we have a certain audience that wants to know what's going on across the board in our community. And so I think that having something that is not tied to the administration, when I talk to Quentin's people all the time, everything is coming out of a cookie cutter. All the advertisement that comes out of City Hall, Parks and Rec, are all on the same people are designing and producing all of it across the board. And
but this is not something that's designed and produced. This is something that's live. We're right there, and we have the invitations go out to.
How many people have you had on one of those?
Usually it's about 80 people.
80? All right.
Yeah.
I'd like to see at least 600 to 1,200 to 2,000 people tuning in. And I think that is real possible if you work with another model, another business model per se, another, because first of all, a lot of people talk about streaming and they don't understand streaming. When you stream, you really want to give your viewers 2 or 3 weeks, and it needs to be a real good event. It shouldn't be just a passe. You can just film what you're doing and then put it up. But when you start talking about streaming, and streaming is much more expensive from my point of view. But I think the more we can engage our city council people in this type stuff that the ordinary Joe will come to our channel and see, I think that's a good thing. What are some of your concerns?
Concerns about, well,
in general?
What we have, particularly at this point, we've got a couple of different pandemics that are going on, with this COVID situation. That's a major concern, and how we're handling it, and in particular trying to get the money that we deservedly should get from the CARES Act funds. I mean, we haven't gotten all of those dollars.
Is that the county?
Yeah, but it's
because they supposed to kick in some money, and the last couple of interviews, I'm like, where's the money? They haven't sent it over there yet.
Well, we've gotten, if we were over 500,000 in population, we would have gotten that money directly from the federal government. But because we're only at 480 something thousand, which actually we're probably, and have been for over 10 years, but we're probably more at 516,000. So we should have gotten that money. We should have gotten those dollars directly from the federal government. But we would have gotten $54 million from the federal government. To date, we've only received like 19,000 something from the county, with the hopes of getting another 10 million. I'm sorry, I said thousand, but I'm talking about millions. With the hopes of getting another 10 million. We add that on to the 14 million that we got from Clay County. But we're still short of the total of $54 million that we would have gotten had we been a city over 500,000 people.
What kind of job do you think the mayor's doing, and how well do you get along with him?
I get along well with the mayor, but just like any folks who we come from kind of the same background, but I'm old enough to be his daddy, so I have a little different worldview than he does. I'm in a different point and position in life where I don't have to be as cautious about what folks think about me politically, because I never really was a politician. So if I don't win a seat, I continue to do the jobs that I've been doing that have paid me decently my entire adult life anyway. So
you're not gonna miss the beat whether you in the seat or not.
We sure hope not. So, but what that does is it causes you to be able to think and talk a little differently about any particular subject. And he, and I understand he has to be a little more cautious about things. He's still a young man. He's still looking to be in the politics. But he's really sharp.
He's a decent guy and all of that type stuff, but
he's sharp. He's sharp.
Oh, hey, I think Quentin is in the same. We got dozens of Quentin Lucases in the cut of Obama, per se. Very intelligent, has class, but this is where I'm at on everybody and everything. Do you keep your word? And as I told Quentin, I say, I see your lips moving, but I'm looking at your actions. And when it came to Cascade Media, you talk all of this stuff, but the city doesn't do any business with Cascade Media, the only Black-owned digital media company in the Midwest. We cover everything. You don't do no advertisement with us. What are you talking about, you for a Black business? You're at the helm. And it's not no favoritism or just because I'm Black. If you can show me somebody else that's doing what we doing, then advertise with them. But there's nobody that's black that's doing this, and everybody's on this Black Lives Matter. The only thing matter in my black life is some economics right now. Because
it's some green, huh?
Yeah, if the black community has an economic base to pull from, we can take care of every problem we got. Yeah. Education and everything. And that's where I see it's very important for our base to understand economics and our politicians to understand that's the major thing that you should be fighting for and be against. When they don't want to do right by us, block every project that has economic implications, because economics is what's running the country and the world right now. And people are doing what's in their interest. And black people, we have just been like a washing machine. They get us any kind of way, move us. and I'm like, for us to be so intelligent, maybe you can tell me what that's about, why we're in this situation.
Well, some of it is being expedient for yourself at a particular time. And that's as simple as I can put it.
Yeah.
That's as simple as I can put it.
What's your platform for 221, Lee? For the city, what do you want to see happen?
Well, my hope is that we can do something to deter some of this violent crime that we've got going on. It's getting to be unimaginable what's happening.
But see, why do y'all all, and I'm getting on you now, why do y'all all say we need to do? We know what we need to do. If there's economics in our community, you wouldn't have all this crime. You wouldn't have when there's no, as I said earlier, you throw that crumb of cheese out in our community, it's going to be a big war going on to get that cheese. And a lot of things are, the bottom line is economics on a lot of things.
Well, Brother Carlos, I agree with you to a certain degree, but also, I also have to state this: there are times and situations where we have to develop a different moral compass on how we deal with each other, whether it be through economics or whether it just be through living life. And it's almost unimaginable for someone to shoot up in 20-some times in a car, and there's a baby in that car. So that means you don't care who the hell's in that car, and then the baby gets killed.
All right.
Now there's some other things that may be happening with that whole situation, and But
at the end of the day, that situation, as we started off the program, about self. And when everyone is putting self first, then that's why the planet is being destroyed. Because this economic mindset that has been perpetuated by the majority community and it's out of control. These corporations and the Facebooks, it's out of control, and they can't control it because the corporate community is driven by profit, and you do whatever you have to do to give those shareholders the profit. And so that means poison in the air, that means poison in the water, that means you have to have a slave population to do the work free. And so I don't disagree with you. Yeah. I don't disagree with you. So my solution has been the industry that I'm in to try to get my community to come to your platform where you're not going to be confused with fake news and all the other things that are not in your interest. And as I said, you put some booty shaking stuff up, everybody is tuning in.
Yeah. Except us old guys,
Yeah.
we've seen enough of that in our day. So
And then, so that's where I just see the whole problem with us is that we've taken on the value of the majority community and the most intellectual of us to a degree. They got those doctorates, was able to get in these big positions. They want to keep those salaries rolling, and they want to keep their kids in good schools. And you can't make too much noise about your community and be in the good graces of the majority community. I tell the Negroes all the time, look at that Negro out there, Dr. Carpenter. He came in there with that, we want to have some diversity. Them people say, hey, we're going to diverse you up out at least something. Because that's not what we're looking for. And so, therefore, when I'm looking for support for Cascade Media, especially from my community, I'm telling it like it is. Why you not supporting us financially with advertisement and talking to it wherever you working? Hey, these people are making moves in my community, and I think they deserve your support, and they have my support, because communications is the key to us moving to the next level politically and any other way. If we can't be incommunicado with our community, our politicians is just representing themselves, because the community hasn't given them a mandate. This is what we want, and this is how we want it.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you.
What's your closing words, boss man?
Well, my closing words are simply, we have to find ways that we can work together to develop a strategy for us to be able to move the entire community forward. Be that through economic system, be that through our neighborhoods, developing, trying to redevelop our neighborhoods. All of those things kind of tie into some of the things that we have to do. Even as city councilmen, we have to be able to put forth some things that are going to help develop our community. One of the things, and I'll just mention this, one of the things that I've been working on for the last 2.5, 3 years is developing the corner of 63rd and Prospect. And it's been sitting dormant for 20 years.
BP station is and the drugstore, and that other corner, nothing is there, because I'm in the location 1 building right down the street.
Right.
They've been developing that area for 20 years. Ain't nothing happened.
But and that's the point I'm making. We've got to turn the corner on some of these developments that we have control over, and start making some things happen. And I think we're finally going to be able to get some of that done, hopefully within the next year.
Excellent. What I would say in closing, it was a pleasure having you on the show. I'm going to steal one of Jim Watts's lines. I've been stealing it almost in every damn interview. It was a plum pleasing pleasure. That's how he ends his interviews. I'm stealing that. I like that. Having you on, Lee. And as we always say, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself.
That's right.
This program is brought to you by Dye Electric LLC, Energy in Motion.